Hi, so I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the Pentecostal movement and how it started. And so basically, the Pentecostal movement started in the Bible, in the book of Acts, in chapter 2, where we see the disciples when they were waiting for the promised Holy Spirit that Jesus told them about. They were in that upper room, and it would happen in the Feast of Pentecost, and that's when they had this tongues of fire. This power came over them, which was just the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and they start speaking in tongues. And throughout the book of Acts, we see them doing miracles, healing, casting out demons. I mean, a lot of powerful things that were happening to them. They were speaking new tongues. And so that was a Pentecostal movement origin right there. But throughout history, things started shifting a little bit. Doctrines and theology started changing. People were wondering, well, how does one get saved? How does one become holy? There was this desire for people to become holy, and they did not know how to achieve it and attain it. So they started thinking about, well, we need the person, we need this power. And so this thought of the Holy Spirit coming in to help people came into the picture. And John Wesley was one of those persons in the 1700s who started teaching that there is this something different coming up upon people. That's something powerful, a different event that happened to them, where the Holy Spirit would come into play and um, come inside people and fill them, and they called it a second grace, and uh, and would help them get this desire, holiness, or sanctification, which is a fancy name for it. And so John Wesley started with this idea, and it started progressing, and people started refining and studying more about it, searching more about it, and little by little, this idea of the presence of the Holy Spirit came into more evidence in the thoughts and the theology and the doctrines of the people. And so in the 1800s, more and more teachers started focusing on this doctrine of this need for the person that is a converted Christian to retain that and to achieve. They thought that holiness was the only way to achieve the perfect Christian life. And so eventually they started shifting their thoughts, and they started realizing that there was a subsequent event that would happen to people, which had to do with the third person of the Trinity, the Holy Spirit, who would now uh, came upon people and baptize people and empowered people to do signs and wonders, just as it was happening in the book of Acts. And the manifestation was becoming evident in people speaking in tongues, and that's what happened with this person. His last name is Seymour, William Seymour. He was in the learned about this new doctrine of the activity of the Holy Spirit in people's lives, and he took these classes in this Bible college in Topeka, Kansas, and he learned about it, and people were receiving the baptism of the Holy Spirit, speaking in tongues. So he learns it. He goes to Los Angeles. He starts teaching about it in this place, in this school, in little house, in this building that was located in Azusa Street in Los Angeles. He starts teaching it. A lot of people start flocking, learning, and baptism of the Holy Spirit is happening. People are speaking in tongues, and there's this huge revival happening there. People are flocking to this place in Azusa Street from all over the world. It lasted for 3.5 years. There were services happening, and everybody wanted to know what is going on there. So, because people were receiving just like in the book of Acts, they were receiving the baptism of the Holy Spirit. There's people speaking in new tongues. And so it was just like people were just in awe. So this movement started spreading, and a lot of people from this Azusa Street movement spread throughout the whole world. And this new doctrine, this new theology, which basically focuses on the fact that one gets saved by faith, then one goes through the process of sanctification, that one receives the baptism, the experience of the baptism of the Holy Spirit, just like the disciples did in the book of Acts, chapter 2, and throughout. And that there's signs and wonders, that there's healing taking place, just like in the book of Acts. And all of that kept continued growing, and there was evidence of it, and there was miracles. People were healed. More men, of faith and believing in this movement and in this doctrine started putting into practice, believing into it. One of them was Oral Roberts. He would have these huge tent meetings, and in these meetings, people would be healed. He would just, he would people would be baptized in the Holy Spirit. They would have the spirit language. People would receive healing. People who were blind would receive sight. Miracles were happening. And so this Pentecostal movement started that way. And do I believe that every Christian today should live the Pentecostal way? I believe so, because to me, the Pentecostal way is the Bible way. Basically, to me, the Pentecostal movement is not a movement, but it's the Bible, the book of Acts in the process of today. It's the same way that it was happening then, it still happens now. It hasn't stopped. The Holy Spirit is God. The Holy Spirit acts the same way. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So the acts of the Holy Spirit. And Jesus says you will receive a helper, a comforter. And he also said, greater works you're going to do, when I leave. So we are now still, living in presence and experiencing the Holy Spirit. And I can say that because I grew up in an evangelistic church where we were not taught about the Holy Spirit. And once I learned it, I have experienced the baptism. I have experienced miracles. I've been healed personally, and I have been used as an instrument to also as a gift of healing. The Holy Spirit gives gifts, and those gifts happen. I mean, we see the evidence of those gifts happening. People get healed, at church. Now I belong to a church where I have learned those things, and I see it, before my eyes. I see miracles. I see healing. I see wonders. People speaking in tongues, gifts of prophecy, all those things that are described in the Bible, everything just as it is written. I see it happening and unfolding. So one thing that I would want everyone to know about the Pentecostal movement is, to me, that it's just about the person of the Holy Spirit. A lot is taught about God the Father. A lot is taught about Jesus Christ the Lord, but not much emphasis is put on the person of the Holy Spirit. And Pentecostal movement is everything about Pentecost, which is really what it is. It's just the coming of the Holy Spirit in the life of a Christian, and the work that the Holy Spirit does through the Christian, for just as Jesus described it. Everything that Jesus said the Holy Spirit would do in the life of a believer happened back then, and it still happens today. It hasn't changed. It hasn't stopped. The Holy Spirit did not disappear. He's here just as Jesus said. So that's pretty much briefly an explanation of the Holy Spirit. It's a movement, and now it's the largest and the fastest growing. And it is very active today, and it is awesome.